Hello, welcome back to Seen by Few. I'm Nick,
Lance.
and so this week we had an idea where we can kind of watch an older movie and then the remake of the movie or the adaptation based off it or whatever.
And judge by their merits alone,
Whether the old's cool
or the new's cool.
Yeah. It's apostrophe S.
Yes, it's growing on me.
Look at the title card down below. So the old school versus the new school.
And eventually you're going to be like, ha ha!
Yeah, puns. I know puns. So, this week, as if to kind of show our hand a little bit, these are my movies that from my collection.
Good luck keeping the glare off.
Yeah, it's got to be angled. Look at that. We have Let the Right One In and versus Let Me In. Whereas this is the Swedish one from like 2000 something or other, and this one 2009. I have a feeling it's older than that, but. So, we're going to be talking about these movies in the plot they're in. So there's not like, I imagine we'll give our rating at some point in time, but that's not the watch it for our rating and then, see what we think and then go watch them. We're going to be talking about these movies. So have you seen these movies? You should. And go watch them and come back and compare and contrast with us.
And we'll be talking about the virtues of both.
Yes, and presumably pulling things from both of them at random intervals. So spoilers, but I would say that if you've never seen either of these movies, I would go give one or both a watch. So get to it, get back to us, and special guest appearance by Siri.
My phone has been doing this, and I don't know why. But anyways.
All right. So Let the Right One In versus Let Me In.
Yes. Spoilers again. Fucking beat it.
So where do you want to start with these particular ones?
So I would like to start with us saying which one we prefer.
You want to start with that? Sure. I mean, I'm fine.
Where would you start?
No, I think that's a good place to start, and then kind of go through and compare and contrast why we think it's different. So I watched these like it'd been a long time since I'd seen them, and then when we started doing this, I've got both of these on DVD, super easy, or I guess on physical media. It'll be super easy for me to throw these in and watch them. So I watched one day, one the other day.
So before you say what you like, what was the one you'd seen first?
I'd originally seen Let the Right One In. I think we'd had it it wasn't a thing you could go see in theaters. I think we rented it or something like that, and we'd all watched it together at some point in time in like your old place. And the movie was good. I'm like, I like this movie. And then when the remake came out in theaters, we all went together, I think, to watch it in theaters. And then I was like, this one wasn't as good. So when I watched them this time, I'm like, to give the newer one a fairer chance, I'm going to watch it first, so I'm not comparing the old one to it like I was before. And then I watched the older one afterwards. And after watching both of them, I think I like the newer one better.
It's funny because I agree with you.
Same with you would have thought the other one but first.
So it's with me normally it's like I like the one that I see first, and I can't help it. But like the prejudices of like something that gets remade, it drifts into the newer one.
Yeah, it's like I said before, like the baggage that you bring to a movie, and you're constantly comparing this one that you're watching now to what had come before.
Yep. And see, I did that with Watchmen. Like, I went and saw the movie, and I'd read the comic book. So then when I watched the movie, I was like, when a certain turn happened in the movie, I was like, bullshit, this movie sucks. But I went back and watched it again. It was like, this movie's pretty fucking good, actually.
Yeah.
And the ending of this makes a hell of a lot more sense than what happened in the comic book. Yeah. But it's funny because normally we don't tilt our hat to each other about what we think. And I fucked up last week. We were actually supposed to make this recording last week, but then I got super busy at work and super busy at the house.
And I didn't have time.
I didn't have time to watch them.
So there was the talk of like, hey, I remember these movies. Maybe I should freeball it. I'm like, no, watch the movies again, please.
Well, you took me out of left field because if we would have made that recording last week, I would have been sitting here going, so the original was better than the remake, because I would have been going off memory of what I thought at that point. But you said... I rewatched them and I think my opinion has changed, and you completely took me off guard when you said that. because I was just kind of like, okay, well, I'll go back and pay attention. And I did.
And it also helped that I brought the DVDs and stuff over, so you could be like, damn, bam, watch these.
And yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot more good things in the remake than the new one. So then we'll do a little compare and contrast, because I do have a short list in my head of what I liked, what each movie did.
So, I mean, in the beginning, I think I like the beginning, the way the Let the Right One In. So the Swedish one starts versus the remake, because the remake starts kind of like in media res, where they're in a ambulance taking someone to the hospital, and then you jump back in time and figure out what's going on there. I'm not really a huge fan of that particular, because it feels like you're tipping your hand too early. Like, this is what the story's about. I want you to slow build me into the story. So when I was starting watching Let Me In, I'm like, I don't think the other one did this, and it's kind of like, well, that's not as cool. But then it actually starts up with the story, and I don't know. I think I like the new one better. 'Cause, there was always that discussion of, well, then when we were comparing them like a decade ago or whatever it was, like, well, in the Swedish one, it never really told you what the relationship between the girl and the older man was, and in the new one, they had to show you a picture because the American audiences are dumb, and I don't really think that way at this point. Now I just kind of see it like the original didn't really build on the relationship between her and the father figure as much as the new one did, and it really kind of seemed like in the Swedish version, what was her name, Ali, didn't really care about the guy as much, and she was like done with him, and it just kind of seemed like, I need someone else now. Whereas in the new one, it kind of seemed to me like she actually still cared for the older man, and kind of felt a bit more love and pity for him, like after he kind of fucked up.
Yeah, and that's, see, I kind of felt the same way whenever I watched them. I think the reason I like the new movie better, the remake, is because the relationships in the movie are fucking heartrending. Like, you can definitely tell when someone takes a property and it's a fucking shameless cash grab. I feel like whoever wrote this script had the utmost reverence for the fucking material.
Yeah.
The original material, because it told the complete story. And yes, it did basically have to go, hey, this is a thing that's fucking happening, because American audiences might not put those crumbs together. But in its defense, when he found the picture of like Richard Jenkins and her, and like, it didn't have to. Main kid didn't have to go. Oh, is this your step? Is this your dad?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I like that better now. Whereas in the past, I think when we watched it, we were just kind of like, man, these movies nowadays are holding everyone's hand. We got it just from watching it, and I think that aspect of me has at least matured, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get that when I watched it this time. I just saw it as a cool kind of moment where, like, he's just kind of looking through some of her stuff, and she's like, here's some of my puzzles. And he's just kind of looking through and picks up, like, an old black and... I don't even know if it was black and white. But, like... it was kind of like the booths you go to in the mall and get, like, those lines of photographs.
Yeah, but it was, like, brown and white. So it was, like, before color, I guess, when the other two colors were, like, brown and white. Or it browned over time.
Probably.
Because, like, that dude looked like he was, like, 14 in that picture, but, like, Richard Jenkins' character had to have been pushing, like, upper 50s.
Yeah.
So, like, that relationship had been going on for probably 40-plus years.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about what we thought each movie did better than the other.
Okay.
So, I'll go from the beginning. So... I like the actress, and this is nothing against Chloe Grace Moretz. Good actress. I like her. But for this particular movie, I like the Swedish girl better. Just because she was more ambiguous of what her sexual orientation is. She reminded me of, is it Elijah Wood who played Frodo?
Okay.
Like, she reminded me kind of Elijah Wood-esque. She had those big eyes, like those big haunting eyes. And I just feel like she fit the part of who her character was better. That said, I think that Chloe Moretz was a more... I think she gave a better performance. The girl from the original movie, she was very kind of wooden.
Well, I wonder if that was maybe part of the source material too, is where in which she's not emoting as much and not meant to emote as much. Whereas in the newer one, they give her a bit more connection, I guess. I don't know, to people still, because there's that a bit more connection to the father figure.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of see, like, in the original one, like, when she walks into them, she's like, yeah, get out. And there's never, and she, like, argues with them a bit, but there's never really, like, any real love that you could see between them. Mm-hmm. Like, in that one scene when she's got, like, the burnt up face and he sticks his head out the window, there's no, like, she just looks at him and is like, eh. Then she bites his neck and fucking throws him out. And I didn't see I used to love this person as much as with the remake, when she's like, hey, let me come in, and he's like points to his throat and he can't talk at that point in time, so he can't invite her in. And they kind of share the moment where like they press their foreheads against each other or whatever. You can kind of get the sense that like she used to love this guy, and maybe over time she fell out of love. I don't even necessarily get that sense, but she's probably lost people before,
right?
And can just kind of get the sense of like, okay, he's not really going to be able to do anything for me anymore, and he tried to kill himself, obviously. Like, I'll do him this favor, get rid of him, and toss him out the window.
Yeah, and I think that's what was tragic about the original movie. I picked up pretty fast on the fact that they were probably a thing at one point, and that he was doing this because he loved her and he's obligated to her, for a sense of obligation. With Richard Jenkins' character and Chloe Moretz. I keep wanting to say her middle name for some reason.
I think that was earlier on when she started. She was Chloe Grace Moretz, and then I think over time she's just Chloe Moretz.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of whatever gets put on the SAG card is whatever gets put on the posters, and that's just kind of how you know people.
Right.
Kind of like Tommy Lee Jones. Just hearing Tom Jones is kind of like, you mean the singer?
Yeah. For the longest time, it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah.
And now it's just Dwayne Johnson.
I think for a long time he was contractually obligated to put "The Rock" in it, and once that contract was over, he was just...
See ya.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like their relationship was a lot more tangible, and like, I guess what I really liked about it was that I didn't feel like... Me and my wife had this long conversation after I watched Let Me In, where she was basically challenging my ideas of what was really happening in the movie. I really liked the relationship between the two because it had that feel of a couple who had been together for so long that like the familiarity is just, it's bothersome now. You've heard all this person's stories, it's like you're just bored. And I got that sense. And also, like when little things in a relationship start popping up, like he smacks when he eats. And you don't say anything about it, and then like this thing builds up over fucking years where eventually you're just like, shut your fucking mouth when you chew, please. And it just becomes this thing that you cannot get past because you didn't say it. Like, you could feel this tension because when he's going out and like doing these things for her, that first scene where he comes back and she's like yelling at him like, do you want me to just go out and do it myself? Because she apparently just fucking sucks at like going out and feeding and then like hiding the evidence.
Well, I mean, ultimately she's in the body of a 12-year-old girl,
but she's still strong as fuck.
She is strong, about as strong as a human can be, but there's also the fact that like, what is she going to do with the body versus what someone else is going to do with it? And then I think there's also the concern that it seems like in this particular vampire lore is if she bites on someone and doesn't kill them, they come back.
Yes.
So that's like during the one scene in which she like is pretending to be the lost the girl, and the guy comes up and she like after she's feeding, you can see her like pick up the head and kind of like give it yawn twist to make sure dude is fully finished before she goes running off.
And she had the thing. So let me just get back to what I was saying about the relationship.
Sure.
What I liked about that was that it had that, she's yelling at him about, am I supposed to go out and do this stuff myself? And he's like obligated. He feels like he has to do this, and apparently he has to do it every fucking night.
Well, I think the initial thing was he was going to go kill that kid and get like that jug of blood, but he spilled it. So that's a meal that she doesn't get to have.
Right.
and then she goes out and gets her one-time fix, but now he's got to go and refill it. I would assume that you'd go to a place, fill up his jug, get all the blood out of a kid, maybe do it a couple times, fill up as much as you can, and then be good for a while.
Right.
But he fucked it up.
Yeah.
So now that just kind of throws that whole kibosh on that whole plan.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder if that's kind of what her frustration is. Because, I mean, you start the movie with them just moving in. Well, why did they have to move in? Did he fuck up the last murder too? How many murders is it that he's been screwing up? He even admits that, like, maybe at this point in time I just want to get caught.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm getting old, or maybe I want to get caught.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's, and you could tell there's that, I'm doing this thing for you because I love you. Mm-hmm. And when you start fucking screaming at me, I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Like, you could feel that frustration in his voice as he was saying it. And it was hinging on, like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. It's like, I'm ready for this to be over.
Yeah. This has become repetitious, and I'm just tired. Yeah. You could feel, and I think that's what I love about Richard Jenkins. He's been in so many crazy movies. He was in Step Brothers.
Really? Was he the father in Step Brothers?
Yeah, he was the father in Step Brothers.
Okay.
Like, the guy is, like, an amazing fucking character actor. And, like, in this movie, I remember when I watched it initially, I didn't have the same respect for him than I did when I watched the remake. And, like, his character is just so fucking good. Like, my favorite part of Let Me In, and it's a small part, but I just love the conversation where she was like, you going out? And he's like, do I have a choice?
Yeah.
And he's, like, putting the kit together, and she finally, like, walks over and just, like, gives him that little bit of a hug.
Yeah.
And, like, the way he turns and he's just, like, leans on her, like, I love you so much. Yeah. I'm so fucking frustrated in the situation, but I love you so much. Yeah. And there's nothing I won't do for you.
Yeah.
You know? It's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's so much emotion in that scene where it's just, you feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Because they're in a situation where it's like, he loves her, she has to have blood. And I agree with you. I think it's like they stay in an area, but then bodies start fucking piling up. And then when the heat starts getting directed towards them, then it's time to go to the next fucking place.
Yeah. That's the thing I like over Let Me In versus Let the Right One In, is that they seem to do more scenes kind of building up the relationship between Abby and the father figure versus in Let the Right One In. Like, they do scenes with I don't remember what his name was in that one. I don't know if he was named or not, but like the father figure where he's in like the local bar-ish thing or whatever where they go to eat, and they're doing a scene with him and these other people in the block. I'm like, I don't care about these people, and I don't really, that's not what I want to see developed between. I want to see the relationship between Allie and that one and him, not random guy.
Right.
That'll end up being the foil.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So another virtue, I think, that the original movie, well, you know, we'll get to that part because that's near the end. Mm-hmm. I wasn't crazy about the kid who played the boy in the original movie. He was just okay.
Well, it's in that one, like the actor was fine. I mean, it doesn't help that well. I don't speak Swedish, and of course I'm going to watch it in Swedish. I'm not like, I watch the movies in the language that they're in. And I'll read the subtitles, and that's always going to take a little bit of something away. But I think with dub you lose a little bit of something too, at least for me anyway.
They'll change things to like make sense.
Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
So I think that might do a little bit of a disservice there, but I wonder how much of an actor he really is before that. I have no idea.
Well, I'm not going to go look at IMDb right now, but I feel like that was a movie where it was like some dude had an idea for a cool story, and he's like inviting...
It's like, I read this book, and it was really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to adapt to this book.
So I'm going to get, like, you know, some of my buddies to, like, you know, play these parts. Because those people, they might be legit actors in Sweden. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not Swedish.
But there just seems like there was a lot of people who were just kind of, like, winging it on their parts in the original flick. But, like, the storyline...
It's so good.
It's good. It's very in depth. It's very good. And what I think I liked a lot about the remake is just there was at no point, like, I don't know what I was thinking when I originally watched the movie, because I remember I walked out of that movie and then I started dunking on it.
I think we had watched Let the Right One, and like as the cover says, like the best vampire movie ever. And I don't know if that's true, but it's a really good fucking vampire movie.
It is.
And I think we had seen it months before, and it was kind of like one of those things where we had discovered this foreign movie, and we had it up in our heads how cool it was and what the concept was. And before we went to go see the movie in theaters, I don't think we rewatched Let the Right One In. We didn't have that immediate direct comparison. We just went into this one thinking about what we remember from the other one. And thus we're going through that like nostalgia factor of like, we remember how cool it was to do all these things, and now this movie's just doing those same things. And are they really bringing anything new to it?
Yeah.
Like, I think we were putting in the emotional scenes in our head between characters that didn't actually exist. Yeah. Whereas when you sit and watch them, like, I watched them not back to back, but I watched one night and watched the other one the next night. So essentially back to back. And fresh in my mind, and kind of had that kind of, this movie really doesn't put in the emotion I guess I remember it putting in and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, the box clearly on the front as it's best vampire movie ever.
You have to angle it left and right.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Which is, and first that look at this cover. That's a good fucking cover. Yeah. Like that the Ellie character. She just looks really cool. Kind of that little girl covered in blood. Like, and something's fucked up with her.
She looks like a little version of Eric Draven from The Crow. just.
Which, I mean, for the cover on Let the Right One In is better than
Let Me In.
Better than Let Me In. You can kind of see Chloe Moretz's face through it, but
yeah, but like,
so best vampire movie ever.
But see, even then, it's like I don't know if I hadn't watched a lot of vampire movies and I didn't know a lot about, like the established like lore out there, I wouldn't have even said that it was a vampire movie.
They each say vampire once in the entirety of the whole movie.
Well, the kid asks, "Are you a vampire?"
Yeah.
But like, and she doesn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
She's just like, "I drink blood." Yeah. So it's like, is it even really a vampire movie? Because, I mean, she regenerates. Yes, she sleeps during the day. She gets burnt by sunlight. Those are all the that's common vampire tropes. But like, she doesn't get pointy teeth. Like she had the crazy fucking like guru loop and eye, like the crazy eyes. I mean, on the whole, yes, it's a vampire movie. But like, they didn't go for a lot of the common tropes, and they even did something new, as far as I know, with the whole I have to be invited in.
That's an old one.
But when he said, "What happens when you don't?"
Yeah, I've never. They've like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and stuff like that. They just show them like, I just can't enter. Like, this brought like a new aspect to like, what happens if I don't invite you in? Yeah. And they kind of showed like the new thing where like they step in and it's like they just start bleeding from every orifice.
They just start basically deconstructing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fucking cool.
Yeah, that's dope.
But like, like every other vampire movie, it's like, you have to invite me in. It's like, no. And then when they try to push it in, it's like there's an invisible barrier.
Yeah,
they're like,
invisible wall. Like, I can't. Yeah. Whereas it's like, no, but I can come in. It's detrimental.
And even then, that is fucking frightening, because if she can still go in and like after a minute she starts decomposing, like imagine the vampire walking up to your door and being like, "Hey, let me in," and you're just like, "Go fuck yourself," and she just runs in and snatches your fucking ass real quick,
and throws you outside.
Yeah, and throws you outside, and be like, "Okay, what now?" Like even then, that's fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
But like, I loved it because I had never seen a movie do that.
Yeah.
And I think the original movie did that scene better than the remake, and the only reason I say that is because in the original, when she walks inside, the intensity on her face is like she's standing there and like taking the pain.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was brilliant. And then like, if you're not paying attention, you don't see like the blood pooling on the floor before you start seeing it like burst through the clothing and everything like that. Yeah. And they did do that in the remake as well. But like, you could tell that Chloe Moretz was like in pain when it was happening, where like the other girl was just giving him really fucking intense face, like, I guess we're doing this shit. Hopefully you fucking release me from it. But yeah, I had never seen that before. And I do like it when people can try and lend something new to something old. Even if most people are like, bullshit. Like, I appreciate the try.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that really stood out of those movies, where I was just like, fuck, man, that's great. Like, thank you for not just retreading the same old fucking tired ground. But I think they did it better in the original movie, and it was just because of the actress.
I'd say those scenes are about equal for me, I think.
Yeah.
Because I didn't put as... I think, like, you... Even when we were talking about, like, reviewing these ones, you were like, man, that one scene, and you're kind of talking about that scene like it stuck with you for a long time. Whereas to me, I'm just like, it's cool.
Well, it's like the thing I did really appreciate about the new version whenever she was actually like, starting like decompose or whatever, like it actually showed like the blood running from the nose and then it like zooms in on the ear and you can actually hear like the fucking eardrum pop.
I think that's what I liked about the new one actually showed it like coming out of like places, whereas I think the Swedish one, it just kind of like started from the top of her head and just kind of like rolled down.
Oh, it started bubbling out of her forehead too.
Okay.
Like it didn't go super cheap on it where they were like just hiding fucking like blood tubes up in the hair or whatever.
Yeah.
But like there were points like they did the cheap one like through the dress and stuff like that. But like I was watching where it looked like it actually started like welling up on the forehead, where they actually did that in the new one as well. But like the eardrum popping, I thought was neat. As far as what they did for like the blood effects and everything like that, the new movie takes it. But like as far as the actress and the way she acted her way through it, I preferred the old version just because that girl looked like I'm in serious fucking pain.
This hurts.
Yeah, this hurts like a bitch. But
release me.
This is where we're at. I need you on my side, so I guess this is where we're at.
That's you need to see it, so you understand.
And the other thing that I think that I really appreciated, like I liked the old school version of the final scene of
but the swimming pool.
Yes. So when the bullies come in and there's the four of them, what I liked about the original movie is that you had the four guys, they came in, they're doing what they're doing to the kid, and then like you hear basically the explosion in the background as she comes ripping through, and then you see the kid underneath the water. I really liked that, you see like the arm fall in the back of the tub, you see the feet dragging through, you see the stuff falling in the foreground, and then like when they're leaving, when he comes up out of the water, what I think they did the best in that scene was when he comes up out of the water and he opens his eyes and all it shows is her eyes, and then he smiles and then you see her cheeks as the smile reaches her cheeks, but you never see like her mouth and you never see like above her. That's just a really good shot. She conveyed the emotion through her eyes and like through the cheeks, so you know what's happening there. I
think that was the end of that movie too, right? They just end with a smile, whereas the new one ends with them like leaving.
I believe they ended up leaving as well because they still had the Morse code bit at the end of the movie.
I guess I don't remember. So I think I'm mixing up the two.
Yeah. The endings.
I don't think they were on the train in that one.
The endings.
They might have been leaving, but I don't think they were on the train.
The endings were. I think they're in a car. I think they're leaving in a car to go somewhere. And at the end of the movie, I watched it at work.
Yeah. I remember ending like essentially right after that scene.
Yeah.
But.
And by work, I mean the work I was doing from home. So when my manager's watching this, I did not watch it at work. But like I basically watched it as I was repairing your dad's computer.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, but what I liked about the remakes version of it is, you had the three bullies or the four bullies,
and
then you had the one bully. It's like, this is fucked up, and he just goes and sits down, and he's like, my life's fucking over because this asshole is going to kill this kid, and I'm here with them, and like he just starts basically like, fuck, this is happening, and then. What I loved about that scene is that it goes where the kid is holding, and then you hear like the explosion of glass and her roar, and then like the kid like looks up, and then it goes to the underwater scene where you see like the feet going through and everything like that, and then like most of the stuff happens in the foreground.
It's all pretty much from the boys' perspective under the water,
right?
And you can just kind of see like feet get dunked in and like dragged across, and like the arm fall in the water, and like the new one actually had the head fall closer to frame
in the foreground between
as
him and the camera.
As opposed to the other one was in the background, probably because the prosthetic wasn't as good. Like, here's his head falling in the background. Right. This one's like, look how good this prosthetic is. We're going to put it in the foreground.
But I liked what I liked the most about that is you hear the glass break, you hear the roar, and the kid's like, what the fuck? And then it immediately goes underneath the water, and right before the feet go through, you see the fucking glass hit the pool and fall. Because you see the glass fucking like cascade down where she comes through the fucking light, and then like from her going through the fucking thing on the ceiling to when she starts fucking people up, it's like glass and then feet just go whip right through, you know? So it was like she ran in and immediately got to fucking work.
So, which makes me... They never actually say, like, when Owen asks Abby, like, how'd you get up here? She's like, oh, I flew.
Yeah.
But they've only ever shown her climbing anything. But then in that scene, like, when you've got legs going across the pool, I'm like, is she actually flying? Is that a thing she can do, but maybe it takes, like, effort or something like that?
And that's what I think, too. I think it basically might take effort because you get a hint of that when the mom comes home in the scene where, like, she's putting on the clothes and the old school one and the new school one. In the new school one, she goes out the window, but, like, the windows of their apartment, they're pretty close, but like for you and me, or even an Olympic gymnast, that's still, I would imagine it's somewhat complicated.
Yeah, it's like the new school one actually had some like things in which she could potentially climb, whereas like the old
school one, there's like a 10-foot gap.
And it's just flat, sheer, like white wall.
Yeah, so even if she's like climbed over there, like when you see her scale the wall of the hospital and everything like that, still... I think she was in such a rush where she was like, I'm just going to fucking fly over here real quick.
Fly out real quick.
But yeah, it's like, it lends to, you know, that part of the lore as well, where it's like, okay, she could fly, but maybe it takes a lot out of her to do it.
Yeah.
What I did like about the new version is that when she goes in, that water, that glass cascading through the water, she came through, and then her immediately taking out the dudes. Fucking chef's kiss.
Well, I like the bullies better in the new one because they're just a lot more like dickish. So when you get to the end scene and all four of them just get slaughtered, it's more satisfying than in the old version.
But it's also sad because it starts in the beginning where she sees him out there with the knives like stabbing the tree, and he's like, "Are you gonna cry, little girl? Are you gonna cry?"
Yeah.
And then you see the bully getting picked on by his older brother, and it's the same shit.
Yeah.
So it's like it's literally cascading down from like the, you know, big to the smaller to the smaller to the smaller. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's really hard to fucking feel remorseful for that kid.
When, his brother was like, I'm going to put you underwater, and if you don't survive for 3 minutes, I'm going to stab your eye out. And him just being like, hey, man, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, shut up. Shut up, man. I'm going to put this kid's eye out. And you just be like, man, I don't... Yeah. Maybe I will let my brother put it. Like,
the
dude,
older brother is the true fucking monster.
Seriously.
And then they ran into a real fucking monster. But what I did like very much about the new version is that you had the kid who went and sat down and was like, I don't know if I don't want to be a part of this kind of thing. And after she fucking aces everybody, when the kid comes out of the water, he looks at her, but it never cuts to her. Mm-hmm. It's just the kid's face. And then they leave and they give you the shot of the ceiling where she came through the glass, which I thought was a weird shot because the way they shoot it, it's like almost directly underneath it. So it's like...
Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, like it's... And see, I had to kind of make that leap of logic because I was kind of like, when they showed the shot, I was like, fuck are we looking at?
Yeah.
And then that's when I realized it was like one of the lights up on the roof, like the skylight.
Okay. I must have missed it. It was broken then.
But they show that shot of the ceiling, and then they show like the pool with all the carnage, but that one kid is still sitting there with his face in his fucking hands, like crying his eyes out.
I thought all four died in the new one. Am I wrong in that? It's a new one where the one survives.
The little curly-haired blonde boy, like he went and sat down and was like, I don't want any part of this. And then she went in and fucking aced everyone who was like standing there letting it happen, and the kid, because he was just like, I don't want to be a part of this.
Got
like,
spared.
Yeah, it does the way back shot where you see all the fucking carnage, and he's just sitting there in the bleachers and he's fucking crying his eyes out.
Okay. For some reason, I thought that was the old one.
I might be wrong.
I could be wrong too. Again, I watched these like back to back. Some of the stuff is kind of like these movies are an adaptation of the same source.
They're very close.
They're very close together.
Yeah.
And you're only dealing with like minor differences that make me like one better than the other. And one of it being like, I think in Let Me In, there's the police storyline, which is not in the old one at all. Mm. In the old one, you have the storyline between was it Victoria's husband or something like that, and that group of friends that hangs out in that area, and I didn't care about that at all.
Right.
Like what was going on with them wasn't super interesting to me. Mm. And whereas the cop angle I thought was a little bit more interesting, and gave him reason to be like going around and messing with stuff because he's actually investigating like, oh man, all these weird murders.
Mm-hmm. It to me, it grounded a lot more of the storyline in reality. Mm-hmm. You know,
Well, you also get the one scene where essentially those characters die, either the block guy or the cop guy, and it actually shows like Owen going up and seeing like the cop like reaching out his hand for him, like, hey, save me, and he just kind of like reaches out for the handle of the door and like closes it.
Yeah.
And you don't really get that scene in
The original one. Yeah. It's that's I think what I really like honed in on when I did the second rewatching of Let Me In, is it's that they go for like a lot of visceral emotional gut punches in the movie, because like you actually feel the cop is just trying to do his job and stop the body count.
Teenagers are getting murdered.
Yeah, and he's trying his best to stop this thing, and then when he finally goes down, it's like confusing because you want her to survive, but at the same time, it's like this dude's just doing his fucking job and trying to save lives.
He's just trying to help kids, save some teenagers' lives.
And then that kid has to make that decision of like, I guess this is the fucking world I live in now. Yeah. So,
do I choose Abby or do I choose the real world?
And I know that I've already spoiled this for you, but the cop was Casey Jones in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies.
Yeah, sad. So I wouldn't have ever put that together.
Elias Koteas, I think his name is. But yeah, when I saw him, I was like, holy shit, Casey is just he's way out of shape. Because he almost looks like Welcome Back Kotter.
Yeah, he's definitely balding in that, but that could be movie
could
stuff
have been the
too.
Character, yeah.
But I think it's really good.
Yeah,
like that aspect I think is much better than the other one, because you also get, because then Victoria gets turned into a vampire, like in the old one, and like she gets bit and she's like, oh, I'm fine, and then she's walking around for a bit and go to the friend's apartment and all the cats attack her. I'm like, this is dumb.
No,
like she's running out with like cat prosthetics attached to her, and she's like, yeah.
look at all the stuff that we're seeing. And she's turning, but in the original movie, like the girl wakes up, sees the IV in her arm,
and sees all the blood,
and then just starts basically eating her own fucking her own.
And the nurse never pays attention, just goes and open up the thing. Sunlight, she catches on fire
like a fucking dry wood house in a goddamn blaze.
Such a blaze. It catches the nurse on fire too.
Yeah,
and I like that better, maybe just because it's a bit shorter. And you also get the aspect of like the cop going to me like, hey, she got attacked, why don't you come out here? And it connects those stories, but also still you get to learn what happens to people that get bit by a vampire. There's there's no transference of blood or any of that other stuff. It's just like, it's like a disease. You get bit by it, you're going to turn into a vampire.
Yeah.
Which explains like all the neck snapping and why is this guy going out to do it for her, and why is he like slitting throats and draining blood? Because she just needs the blood. She doesn't need the bitey.
So one of the things I did not like about the new movie is, and I get it, it's neat to look at, but like when she attacks the guy in the tunnel, and like all they're like jumping around it, like she was doing what I imagine Ricky Bobby's kids were threatening like them. I'll be on you like a spider monkey on Mountain Dew. Like that's what I imagine that they look like, but like. It hits that uncanny valley the way it looks.
Yeah, it looks just a bit too CG.
Right, but I mean, it gets the point across. She's fucking fast,
and she
is strong, where she could like jump around them and do that stuff. But it kind of pulled me out of it
a little bit. It's that was one of the scenes that in the newer ones that I'm like, the older one was better.
Yeah, because like the older one, the girl was just strong.
And she just like he picked her up and she just bit him, and then
she locked his ass in and he could not get her off,
and then just bit and he dropped.
Yeah, and she still sucked in the original movie about hide bodies and shit. She's like, hey, he's in a snowbank, go to work.
It's like I'll go. That's also I didn't necessarily like that. Like she bites him and then someone's calling out the window, hey, what's going on out there? It's like, just let it be a cool scene. Don't be like that. Everyone else is being like, hey, cool, what's going on? I heard some trouble out there. Like, I don't care about those guys.
But like
just let it be the dramatic scene in which you actually see the vampire kill somebody,
and then deal with it a little bit later in the movie. But like the guy, every scene with Richard Jenkins in it, I thought he was great.
Yeah. I definitely like how he murders people more in this one. Because in the older one, he's just like, I'm walking through a path and I killed this guy and I'm going to hang him up right here. And the other one, he's got like that creepy bag on the face and you can see like his eyes through the plastic bag. And he's like hiding in the back of teenagers' cars and then just like coming out and just like, have some chloroform.
Well, like the first kid he kills, like as soon as the guy gets up the parking lot, he's like,
And then he's just sitting up for a while.
Just sitting behind him, and it's like, okay.
Like, look in your rearview mirror, buddy.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I get it. He's wearing a black bag on the hat and his face, and it's nighttime, so maybe he doesn't see it. But like the first time you go by a street lamp and it shines off that black bag, dude, I'd put that fucking car in a goddamn ditch, like fast, because he's just sitting back behind him watching, and it's like
prepping, like, here we go, time to kill a kid.
But that also lends to the whole thing of maybe I want to get caught.
Yeah,
because like he is not being thorough right there. Mm-hmm. But, like, he might have done the same thing to the second kid until the second kid jumps into the car with the first kid. And, like, you feel so fucking bad for him. And, like, the reveal of how they did that with him just sitting in the back, like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this situation?
Yeah.
And then, like, when the kid, like, goes to get his jacket and sees the shoes, like, I love the way they shot that where he's like,
those are some boots.
The fuck? And then, like, he looks over and sees him, like, laying behind him. Like, I feel like, and did I mention off the top who the director of the movie was?
I don't think
Matt
you did.
Reeves.
The guy that did Cloverfield.
Okay, so I love Clover. Oh, he did War of the Planet. He did the Planet of the Apes movies.
Did he do all three?
He did the fucking new Batman movie.
Oh, jeez.
Cloverfield. He did all of the War of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Check out this research that we do.
Well, I mean, I think everybody leans on IMDb these days. It's
I mean, more of like we didn't do it ahead of time. I knew that he did Cloverfield just because I watched some of the special features for that one. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, Cloverfield. I know Lance loves that movie.
Oh, to me, it's one of the best found footage movies ever.
That's probably true.
And there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of other stuff in here that jumps out at me.
Yeah, I like the new Planet of the Apes movies. Cloverfield's good.
Yeah, but hopefully
Batman.
He did the Cloverfield Paradox, and that movie blows. The only good thing of the Cloverfield Paradox movie was fucking John Goodman, but the rest of it sucked ass because it had anal starships with anuses or something. It was just weird. But yeah, that guy did a hell of a movie, and it's like he hit his stride apparently with this flick, because when you look at his filmography, like he starts knocking some fucking dingers after that.
This was 2004, I think.
So he took Cloverfield in 2008. Let Me In came out in 2010.
2010. Okay, so he did Cloverfield first.
And then you had Dawn of the Planet of the Apes come out in 2014.
So he didn't do Rise, but he did Dawn and War. Okay.
And yeah, he did Dawn and War, so he didn't
which
do
were both
Rise.
Good.
Yeah, which were great movies. And now he's doing the current Batman movie, and apparently that movie is fucking slaying.
Yeah,
so
it'll be out by the time this movie is out, but it is not out at the time of us recording this movie, or recording this little podcast video.
It came out today.
Oh, did it?
Mm-hmm.
So, cards on the table. The Batman came out today.
Yeah. So, but
he did real good with this movie.
Yeah, and like I'm actually like really looking forward to going to see the Batman now, because like he's been fucking slaying it in my opinion, like the past couple of years. But I just honestly, I was just stunned. I was like gobsmacked when you said you'd watch the movie again, and you were like, I think I changed my opinion.
I changed my opinion. I was surprised by it too.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't want your comment to change my opinion too. So when I sat down to watch it, I was like, I'm going to find out why Nick thinks this is a better movie than the original. Mm-hmm. And then like watching it, it's just like, it's fucking heartrending. Mm-hmm. Like that, the part was, and I can almost recount it scene by scene. You going out tonight? Do I have a choice?
Yeah. And
then she gives him the hug, and like he turns around and you just see him like, I love you so much. And then he goes, please don't talk to that boy.
Yeah. And that's when is the night that he fucks up, and you don't know. Maybe she wouldn't have never talked to Owen again.
Well, she was already doing the Morse code.
But she was at that point. But did it happen after that scene? Because after that scene, he goes out, fucks up, pours acid on his face.
Yeah, because he's in the room listening to his Walkman or whatever, and she came in and she's like, move, and she starts doing the Morse code.
But that was before. And like he sees him talking to Owen out in the thing. So I'm just curious if at that point in time, I don't really remember. Like he's like, please don't talk to that boy anymore. Does she talk to him from that point to when the father dies? And then she's like, well, now I have to talk. No, I don't have to keep that promise anymore.
I think it was
because maybe she would have kept the promise. Maybe she wouldn't have talked to Owen again. Maybe she would have been like, well, Owen's cool, but I need to say.
I feel like in her mind she wasn't doing anything wrong, because she tells him from fucking Jump Street, "We're not going to be friends. I don't want to be your friend."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I don't want to be your fucking friend either."
Yeah.
But like, she tells him straight up, like, "I know how young kids are. I know what you think you see when you see me. Mm-hmm. It's not gonna fucking happen."
Well, it's also the, either you're gonna find out what I am and awful shit's gonna happen, or like in a week, in a month, I'm gonna be gone because someone's gonna find a body and it's time.
And I don't want you asking fucking questions.
Well, I can't lay down ties. I don't want to go through losing a friend and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. So it's just I feel like it did a really good job. Mm-hmm. Doing.
No one knows where that water was from.
It's fucking dumb water. I feel like it just did a really good job with like pulling on those, because like you feel bad for the kid. Mm-hmm. His parents are going through a divorce. He's not getting any attention at home. His mother fucking drinks herself to sleep because she's fucking miserable. Like, the whole movie was like a parade of fucking misery.
I think that's what I like about the newer one more than the older one, is like the older one, he gets to spend time with his dad and he's like driving around the snowmobile having fun. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, him be happy with his father, and like him having like that like little dance moment with his mom when they're like brushing their teeth or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't necessarily want to see him happy, and they just kind of build on the fact that like I think Oscar in Let the Right One In is kind of a psychotic little kid in the making, because he's like got that knife, and so did Owen, but he's like at one point in time, Ali brings up like, "You want to kill people, don't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, I don't want to kill people. I have to." So they kind of set up Oscar as being like that. He wants to kill people. And like, it seems like she's picking him because she needs someone else.
He's a little bit of a psychopath.
And it just kind of seems like there's that, she doesn't like Oscar. She likes what Oscar can do for her. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Abby and Owen, you kind of get the sense that like, she just wants to be a kid. She never really got to be a kid. And Owen's her friend. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, she's got nobody. And it looks like Owen's going through some shit. Maybe Owen will be able to take care of her.
And that's what makes me feel so bad for her. It was like, even her choice in like Let the Right One In and Let Me In. Mm-hmm. I would not want those fucking two kids like protecting my ass during the day. No. They're fucking idiots. Like, it's just like, talk about having to make a hard fucking choice. So we need to talk about this part, because I'm still somewhat confused and I want your point of view.
Okay.
So in Let the Right One In, he does the whole peek.
Yep.
And you see basically in her pubic area, it's like a Y.
Yeah, like he would get on an autopsy scar, but like she's been castrated.
Right. Okay, so you think it was castration?
I think it was. I think the reason why they go ambiguous is because Ali used to be a boy, but before she was turned, she was castrated for whatever reason. And it's never explained, never going to be explained.
Yeah, you just have to kind of use your own.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I had originally watched the movie, I was not ready for any of that. When they showed that scene, I'm like, holy shit, like...
That's the first time they showed it. Like, I wasn't paying much attention, because I'm like, I don't want to see kitty crotch.
Yes, but I think that's what, like, took me aback, as I was like, that was a bold decision, Cotton, to show that fucking shit. And then, like, but I actually paused it on that scene this time to find out, like...
You can see the stitching.
Yeah, like, you could see the stitching, you see the Y pattern, and, like, in my mind, before someone brought up, I think it was Amber, I'm not sure, I thought it was, like, maybe in the lore of vampires of this particular universe, is, like, when you become this thing, because she kept saying, I'm not a girl. Mm-hmm. But she never says I'm not a boy either.
Yeah,
like,
it's not. It's like the I'm not a girl, I'm a monster.
Yeah, I thought that maybe it just falls off, and that was like the result. What was left behind. So, but after like someone was like, she probably got castrated, and it was like that makes more sense.
She probably got snagged up by some creepy bastard.
Yeah,
that ended up was a vampire or something like that. And it's like, this is gonna be my little vampire person or something.
Yeah, and I know that she looks like a girl, but like she can still do butt stuff, right? I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. If it made you vomit a little bit in your mouth, I'm glad I can at least do that.
It's supposed to.
Yeah. But,
yeah. I mean, that was my perception of it, was that it was probably done by whoever turned her. Whereas in the new one...
They so gratefully just like blaze it.
Well, I don't think it's even an aspect at all, because one of the cutscenes in Let Me In is actually like, hey, you be me for a second, and she touches Owen and like projects her getting turned, and she's just a young girl like in bed sleeping, and a vampire comes and like, and you kind of get like the up close sort of thing, and it's very kind of violent and kind of seems like a sexual assault sort of thing, and then like he's like, okay, that's enough, and it's
I
kind
haven't
of
seen that.
It's I'll show it to you afterwards, but it's just kind of a very brief scene that kind of, she was a girl beforehand, and in Let Me In, I don't think they necessarily took that aspect of it, because I don't think it necessarily adds anything to the movie. It's just kind of another mystery, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So it being there versus it not being there is not, it's whatever to me.
Right. Well, to me, I felt like it added something just for the fact of it's the circumstances of what they're going through and like what she's had to deal with like all those years, like why she was so detached, because like the girl who played is it Ollie in Let the Right One In, she's just so
vacant,
like there's nothing there, and it's almost like, you know, you get that old school like vampires don't feel emotions, like she's just, it's straight up, she feels like she's manipulative and very malevolent in the movie, but I don't feel like it's intentional. It's just kind of like, this is life, and you are literally walking into the circumstances I want you to be in because I need fucking help.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way for Chloe Moretz's character in this movie too, where it was just like, it's all circumstantial. Like, this is just my life. If you want to be a part of it, great, because I need the fucking help. Because like when the cop goes into the bathroom for the first time and like sees her, like she is fucking out.
Yeah, just sleeping so peacefully.
Yeah, and it's not until he like peels back that little thing on the wall
and starts burning her little foot.
Yeah,
but then Owen also yells out too, to kind of like distract the cop.
I don't think she would have woken up, because it seems like he yells out and nothing really happens, but he only yells out once he starts peeling that thing away.
And the light touches
I
his
think
foot.
I think the light coming through the window where her fucking warning system went off. Because like I think that's an old trope in vampire movies too. While they're sleeping during the day, it's like nothing fucking wakes them up.
They're the sleep of the dead.
Yeah, but like I really thought that was, you feel kind of bad.
Yeah, because you see you're sleeping, just like, here's just this kid sleeping like completely vulnerable, and it's like, why is there a kid in the tub in a black room?
And you could see he's fucking confused.
It's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, like what's happening right now? What am I into? And then like, you know, things happen. Because I don't want to ruin everything if like somebody's still watching this video. Because like the movies are very, very good. Both of them are very, very good movie. And when I say that I like one better than the other, we're talking about
a point,
or like even like shavings of a point. Because they both stand very well like on their own. Like, and like I said, there's stuff that I liked certain, you know, in one movie that I didn't like in the other. And even to say that I didn't like it, it was just because I thought that maybe it was shot better in the other one.
Or just less is more.
Yes, and there's a lot of less is more. Like when you see the girl crawling up the hospital and Let the Right One In, it looks really bad. But what I did like is that it kind of goes from far back, so it's like you have to kind of catch it.
Yeah,
and it's
hard to see.
Yeah, and it's even more so in Let Me In. Because they do like a far shot of the hospital.
And I'm like looking at I know she's climbing up, but I can't see her. Yeah. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, it's only when she goes by one of the windows and you're like...
There she is.
Because I remember when I was watching it originally, I was working on your dad's laptop and I was kind of like watching it on the TV. And like it has the far shot of the hospital. And like the hospital's up there for like a good 7-8 seconds. And I was like...
What am I looking at?
This is a really weird thing to put in this particular thing in the movie. And then like I went back and rewound it again. I was like, apparently there's something I'm missing. And then you see her going up the hospital and you're like, ah.
There she is.
It looks a lot better.
Yeah.
As far as like the flying and stuff like that, or like her being super strong, she has to have some kind of fucking strength to her to just pull herself up a goddamn building. But like kids
can pull themselves up trees.
Sure.
But just she's climbing on. She's got grip strength or something. Well, she's a little spider monkey.
Yeah, well, she's doing like straight up hardcore parkour up the fucking building. Yeah, like she's just going up.
Even after she bites Victoria and just like runs, she like does like the leap over the fence, and the guy's like, all right.
I guess she just gets away. Yeah, and then in the original movie, when she goes up the hospital, it's almost like old school, like 1960s Electric Company Spider-Man, where it's just like, and you're just being pulled up on the fucking rope.
Or like the new one, it actually looks like she's gripping onto things and climbing.
Yeah,
which I like that better.
I thought that was good too, but it hits that uncanny valley thing again, where it's
like in the hallway or whatever, where I think both her and the guy were CG because like they're both moving around just slightly wrong.
Right, but
it's noticeable.
But like her attacking the people, it's almost more forgivable in that because she's fucking fast, and us watching someone moving that fast, who knows if we like saw something. I'm sure if I was walking down a tunnel and somebody was doing that to somebody, it would probably look fake as fuck to me too, because I'm not used to seeing something like that.
Probably.
But like, yeah, it's. I feel like both movies just stand very well on their own.
They're good.
To say that, and this is probably a really bad one for us to start off on because it's not.
There's no clear.
Yes, there's no clear line. There's no clear delineation between the two where it's like, this is why this movie sucked and this is why this movie is awesome.
If someone like told me like, oh, let the right one in is better to me, I'd be like, yeah, I could see that. Whereas if we're watching like some other thing, like if we were to compare the Thing to like the prequel technically Thing movie, would be like the new one's better. Like you're smoking something for the new Thing to be better than.
That's what I thought when you said it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you're like, now after I've watched the new one again, like I think I prefer it, and I was just like, what the fuck is he talking about? So
I was because it's again like we kind of talk about things, and then you're dad and you're at work, shit slips out of your mind. We're gonna have to like start keeping a schedule or something like that.
We're gonna do better.
But I show up and I'm like, all right, I've got these movies for us to talk about, and you're like, oh, I've not watched any of them. But I think I remember enough. I'm like, no, watch these movies, and I told you that like ahead of time to be like, to coerce you, to like convince you to sit down and give these movies another full watch through. A decade or so later after we originally watched them.
Dude, I could have faked my way through it, but it would have been a completely different video from my point of view.
Yeah.
Because
we wouldn't have had the
debate.
The minute details and stuff of it too.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Like I am not used to that much conveyance of emotions when you watch movies because it's like sometimes I feel like people are just phoning it the fuck in. But honestly, Richard Jenkins, he is so fucking good in this movie.
Yeah.
Chloe Moretz, she's a good actress. I'm still like every time I see her, I think Hit Girl.
Yeah.
She's hitting that Nicolas Cage thing, and that was like one of the first movies I ever saw her in.
Yeah, I think it was the first movie I ever saw her in.
And then
this might have been the second movie I saw her in.
Yeah, and then you brought up that the main kid.
Oh, he was in The Road, which is one depressing fucking movie. If you've ever seen that one,
God, that movie would make you want to fucking slit your wrists.
It's like, why go on in this world anymore?
Yeah,
it was good, but I don't know that I could sit through and watch The Road again.
I could, just for the fact of it's Viggo Mortensen as well, right? Yeah,
it was really good, but really sad.
Yeah,
and he was also ends up being Nightcrawler in the new strain of X-Men movies. So like the
Origin stuff, X-Men Origins or whatever.
What the Dark Phoenix and the other one when it was recast, when it was Age of Apocalypse.
Oh,
X-Men Age of Apocalypse
young Professor Xavier stuff.
Yeah, he's the Nightcrawler in that one.
I think it's X-Men Origins. I could be wrong.
It was Age of Apocalypse. I think was the first one with Nightcrawler, and then I don't remember they called it Dark Phoenix, right? That movie was bad.
So, yeah, well, I liked it.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's as far as what we've gotten for Dark Phoenix movies, it's the less of the turdiest. Still a turd, but less of a turdy.
They're equally awful. That's what the new one might be worse. Because at least the new one had Hugh Jackman and Ian McKellen. The new one had. That one's bad. So we're not talking about that.
The girl from Game of Thrones.
I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Stop at the 8th season.
I'm not going to watch that one.
Oh. Anyways, so would you recommend?
Oh, yes. So,
especially after the entire time we just been like,
yeah.
These fucking movies.
One little thing on it. So the first time I watched it, like now or later, whatever. But this time when I watched it, like now and later. So, is Owen now, and the father later? Is that why he used now and later's? Well, I was wondering if it was on purpose or not.
Okay, yeah.
Because Owen's doing it now, and later he's going to be the old man murdering people for
I
it.
hope that's.
Or if it's just like he picked no one now and later.
I hope that's not it, because I swear to God, if somebody had the force of will to like just put that last little fucking stab in.
Well, no, he started the movie singing the now and later theme.
Yes,
and he shared it like with her, and it's in the movie.
I know.
I just wonder if they picked now and later's for like that. That's what he's going to be later.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if it's. Oh, and there was one last thing I wanted to, and I know we're running close on time, but Richard Jenkins' commitment to Chloe's character, like, you have got to have some fucking commitment to pour fucking acid on your face to try and kill yourself.
Well, it's also be like, I'm caught. What do I got here? I'm stuck under this. Oh, some acid. Sweet. I'm just gonna. Oh wait, it's not killing me.
Well, it's like,
oh God, it's awful.
It was in his bag.
Yeah, it's in his murder bag.
For that fucking, like it can't go back to her. Because it's all about her.
What's I imagine it's part of like, I kill the kid, well, better burn up their face a bit so they're harder to identify. Therefore, it takes a little bit longer. It's in his murder bag.
Sure.
For him to not be caught. We just didn't see him fully commit the first murder, because I think he dropped all the blood. Shit. Well, I gotta hide this body real quick, and then he hides the jogger's body, and I think that's the one in the ice. Mm-hmm. And then now he's gonna go get the third body. Which in like how long does this movie take place over? A few days? 3 bodies in a few days?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had the fuck up, and then you had to amend that. Mm-hmm. So she went out and amended that, and then it's like, oh, I need the jug, so I'm going out the next night.
Yeah, and then she tasted Owen's blood after he's like, I'm gonna make a pact, and down the road, and
that was just enough to whet the appetite.
Yeah, and then she had to run out and kill not fully kill the woman, and get chased off by the guy.
Right.
So I mean, she's got slightly more of a body count and Let Me In, because Victoria bursting into flames also kills the nurse.
That is true. So, and who knows, the other people in the hospital that might have gotten killed, because that fire was a ripper.
Well, I imagine there was an oxygen tank right next to her too, or something like that.
Yeah.
Fires in hospitals, no jokes.
Well, I mean, just the fact of how fast it goes up.
It's kind of like, oh, sunlight, woo woo woo.
Yeah, and it's like the fire. Yeah, she goes up like a fucking tinder twig, and then like the other nurse is so on fire that she just dies, and then it just keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Yeah. Where like even if a fireman was standing out in that fucking thing, he'd be like, "What the fuck is happening in there?" But just his commitment to her character, pouring the acid on the face so he can't be identified, so it doesn't immediately lead back to her. Mm-hmm. Giving his life as his final act because he knows I'm fucked.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just it's heartbreaking, and I think when you go into the movie, if you watch it from the point of view of like the emotional connections that these people have to each other, and like what's happening to these people in their day-to-day lives, it's fucking heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. But that's what makes the movie really, really good.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, which you don't have to ask me which one I'd pick, but
so I think out of these two. So Let the Right One In, the older one, I think is a 7 out of 10.
Sure, yes.
And I think Let Me In is an 8 out of 10.
I would say 8 hinging into 9 for me.
Would you say 7 and 9? Is that kind of like, or are you like 8 and 9?
You know what? I'll just go ahead and say 8 and 9. Okay. But like after watching Let the Right One In again, it does show some of the budgetary restraints.
It's slower in a few different parts, and building on aspects that I'm not particularly like. The Oscar with his father, I didn't need as much. I didn't really need to see that as much. Whereas like in the new one, he gets like a couple phone calls and like, "Just heard about how your thing at school, kid. Maybe I'll see you this weekend. I'm gonna come get you." And then like he never gets picked up, so you kind of see the father isn't into it. So I like that aspect. Mm-hmm. That it's kind of less is more. And Let Me In, and then like the aspects of them following the other people that live in the apartment block and being like that whole side. I'm like, I don't care. Whereas the cop aspect, I think, is more interesting, because at least you're following. He's investigating bodies, which is linked directly to the main characters of the movie. So Let Me In for me is an 8. Let the Right One In a 7. Where still good, still above average, slow in parts. A great story.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you on the 8 and 7. Because because there are things that, like, I think a 9 should be held for, like, super high fucking reverence movies, but they just don't cross that fucking perfect movie. I've got a few movies that I'll give a 10 to just because I fucking love them.
There's a couple 10s for me. Like we've watched Josie and the Pussycats, and that was a 10 just because that's a movie I put on when I'm like just sad or whatever, and it just cheers me up.
Yeah, there are certain movies that just hit you in the fucking all the perfect spots.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 7 for Let the Right One In, 8 for Let Me In. I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll even say it hinges into a 9 for me, just because the people who read these scripts, they had to have been like, okay, it's based off this other movie. You know, they could have fucking phoned it in, but it's like, I feel like there was some top-notch fucking acting in this movie.
Something I'm not sure as if it is, because I know Let Me In is based on a book. Is Let Me In based on the book too, or is it based on the Swedish movie that's based on the book?
I think it's based off the movie.
So I'm not sure. I've not read the book enough to know that if they're just pulling from the same source, or if one saw the other one, it's like, that's a good movie, I'm going to adapt that.
I don't know either, but the one last thing I'll also say is that, you know, you said that you didn't want to see the scene of, like, him brushing his teeth with his mom and, like, you know, riding on the snowmobile with his...
Which, the points where he's, like, happy or whatever.
Yeah, it makes the choice of going with her more fucking gut-wrenching, because it's like he had a life that he could have chosen, because at least it had points of, like, happiness.
See, it just makes me think that he's more of leaning on wanting to be a psycho, because he was already kind of... He had... Because, like, in the beginning of the movie, he had that murder book, remember? Where he's cutting, like, oh, this kid got killed. Let me take the newspaper, cut out the thing, put it in my murder book. Because he was a creepy kid who might have done this when he grew up anyway. He just happened to find the catalyst to be like, with this girl, I have to kill people in order to... Oh, man, now I just have to kill people.
I think it's just the fact that he's like a 12 or 13-year-old kid that just has no fucking outlet, and he's got people constantly fucking with him.
Yeah.
So it's like, you either get tough or you get buried, and I think that was his way of trying to get tough.
Even I felt the bullies in the newer one were worse than the ones in the old one.
Yeah, like that one kid... That the main bully, Joffrey level actor, as far as like unlikability, because
I'm gonna throw you in the ice. I'm not gonna throw you in the ice.
You're taking a fucking swim.
I'm gonna take that stick. What are you gonna do if I try to take your stick? I'm gonna hit you with the stick. You're not gonna hit me with the stick. I'm gonna take it and throw you in the ice. Whip it.
You know what I think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take that stick. I'm gonna ram it up your ass, and then you're going in the fucking lake. And he pops into the ear and he screams like a bitch. And that was like
it's more. I think it's more satisfying when the bully's a bigger piece of shit.
Yeah, and then even then, like, you feel good because that kid got his lick in, but then, like, it sets up that last fucking scene where it's going to go over the top. But, like, I do like that they didn't try and make you, like, feel bad for the bully, but at least they showed that secular fucking that cycle of violence that fucking keeps know, that shit that keeps pouring downhill.
That stuff that tends to happen with bullying is like, it doesn't necessarily come out of nowhere for the bully. Like they've either learned it or they have experienced it, and they're just kind of changing the focus to somewhere where they can have the power or whatever.
No, I mean, that's what they think life is. So that's this is. Yeah. This is apparently where I'm at, and I feel horrible about my situation, so I'm going to do it to somebody else. You know, I'm going to transfer my fucking pain in the only way I know how. But anyways.
So, Let Me In, Let the Right One In. Both good movies. I don't think if you choose to watch one over the other, I would suggest Let Me In, but I don't think you're going wrong with Let the Right One In either. I would say watch both. Maybe make up your own mind, because... In this particular instance, I think we think the new's cool, but the old is cool too.
So my opinion is that you should watch Let the Right One In first, and it's only because I just think it's an amazing baseline for taking something old and presenting it to you in a new fashion, even if it's like that one little piece, like. The movie was just, it came out of left field. Like, it was one that I think I had heard in passing, and I was like, you know what, we're just going to watch this movie.
I don't remember why you had decided to pick it up and show it to us, but it was a good pick.
I've got a buddy, I think it was Steve Nemeth. I've got a buddy of mine who I think he told me about the movie, and then I went and watched it at his house, or he told me about it, and then he might have loaned me his copy, and I brought it back to the house, and we all watched it.
It could be.
I can't remember. I think it's weird that Amber has not seen Let the Right One In, that we watched it at our house, because I think she would have been around for that. But
it might have been one in which you, Tim, and I had all sat, or maybe it was you, Joe, and I don't remember.
Or we just sat up late.
Sat down and watched it. Maybe she went to bed and we just watched it.
Yeah, but
one of those weekends that I would go over and we just watch movies or whatever the fuck we would do.
But I would recommend that you watch Let the Right One In first, because it's just a great watch. And then you watch Let Me In. And you watch it from the point of view of what you had seen in Let the Right One In, and then you watch the emotional range and the acting that happens in the retelling, and it's fucking great.
So, with kind of this discussion out of the way, when I was looking up stuff, there's apparently in development a Let the Right One In show that I don't know if it is stuck in development hell or anything like that, but it's going to be, I don't know if it's based on like an early telling of this particular story, or if it is just kind of an adaptation in a new direction taking it.
The continuing adventures of fucking...
No, it's supposed to be like the father taking care of the daughter. So I wonder if it's like originally like we're going to go back in time and see like she gets turned and now her dad's taking care of her, or is it just kind of this happens to a young girl in like modern times and the father is taking care of his daughter, and it's going to be a father-daughter story rather than a boy meets girl with creepy older guy who used to not be a pedophile but now kind of is.
I hope that's where they start it from. Like, I hope they go from like to the way back to like
that would be neat,
current,
and I would like to see it. But also if it's just kind of we're telling our own original story, but using kind of the framework that was kind of set up in like the right one, and let them be two separate things.
That'd be nice.
If it does become a series, maybe we could talk about it.
I'd love to. So if you have suggestions for remakes that you would like us to watch, put it down in the comments.
Yeah, put it down in the comments. We've got some of our own ideas, but I'm sure we're definitely missing a bunch of other ones. Put like adaptations. Generally movies, but if for some reason something is a movie and something is a series, that's something for us to consider as well. Maybe something is like, here it is as an anime, here it is as a anime movie. That could be up on the block. It's just a matter of how much time we got to watch it.
If someone says, well, fucking Supernatural was a movie or a book, and then they made the TV show, I'm not watching the entire fucking show.
And we're not watching 15 seasons.
No, that ain't happening. So,
but if you throw it on like here's a series that's 10 episodes or something like that's plausible.
Yeah.
That we might do something like here's One Punch Man and here's One Punch Man the movie, or here's like Death Note's probably a bit too much because Death Note has the anime, it has the Japanese movies, and then it's got the Netflix adaptation I think as well, of which I've not seen the Netflix one, but I've seen both the anime and the
manga.
I've got all of the manga too, up on my shelf.
I know little and nothing. I know you write a little note and then people die.
Yeah.
And then apparently more books show up, and then there's fucking death offs or something. I don't know. I don't know much about it, but
throw more remake ideas in there. We've not chosen one officially at this point in time. I've got a couple ideas kicking around in my head. I'm sure Lance does.
I am not watching the Johnny Depp version of fucking Willy Wonka. I like the original. I hate the one with Johnny Depp. Don't suggest it. I'm not watching it.
You can put it down in the comments anyway.
Yeah, and I'll give you a fucking emoji of a middle finger. I'm not watching that movie again. Spoiler alert. I'll just go ahead and say it. The Johnny Depp one is trash.
It's better.
Yes. But yeah,
Yeah, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Give us your thoughts. Like, let us, if you seen these movies, let us know what you think about them. If you had, like, I'm never going to watch those movies, and then you heard us talk about it, and we changed your mind, like, seriously, go watch if this is the reason that you decided to watch one of these movies, then good on us. Because these movies need to be shared with people, I think.
We're going to keep talking about them anyways, because we enjoy each other's conversations, and we like having, but if we helped guide you towards something, or as Nick did for me with these movies, helped me basically take a second look at Let Me In, because I would have totally winged it last week, and I totally would have sat here and been like, "Let the Right One In, it's fucking awesome."
Yeah,
the new movie was trash. I don't know what my headspace was when we went and saw that in the theater, and maybe it was just I was just like, "No,
yeah,
I like the original." Maybe.
Well, I think that's like we went to see Spider-Man 3 and it was the worst movie ever. Because we had expectations, and then watching Spider-Man 3 now, that movie's so stupid and fun.
Yeah, it really is. Like,
it's an awful movie, but it's so much fun. Like, and like the meminess of the.
You hate the spider. I hate the spiders. Let's team up. And Venom was so bad. And when you find out why that movie was bad, like, it just, you feel bad for Sam Raimi because he got fucked. Because there totally could have been more movies there.
Yeah. But same year he's got Doctor Strange in the not Mountains of Madness, Multiverse of Madness coming up. Did you know it was a Sam Raimi movie?
I did.
Yeah.
And I'm
psyched for that one.
Yes. Oh God, yes. And that'll hopefully be one that we're like going to release weekend of.
Yeah, that's when I'll see in the theaters. Like the Batman, I've never cared about Batman, but
I'm hoping that it's what happened with me with the Heath Ledger Batman one, because like they put out the first one, I think it was The Dark Knight, and then they put out the second movie, and like
it was Batman Begins, and then The Dark Knight was the second one.
Right. So like I remember watching the trailer for The Dark Knight, and I was like, this movie is going to fucking suck. Like, this movie is going to be horrible, because I knew fucking Heath Ledger as the cowboy on Brokeback Mountain. I had not watched Brokeback Mountain at that point. I knew him as Von Lichtenstein from the
Knight's Tale.
10 Things I Hate About You. Like, everything I'd seen him in, I was just like, whatever. You know, like, he's going to be terrible as the Joker. In my old fucking, fucking okay boomer head, I was still like, Jack Nicholson's fucking awesome. And then I remember watching that movie, and I remember crying at the end of that flick, because I was like, that dude was fucking amazing.
Yeah, I remember you coming out of the theater and being like, I'm never going to get to see another movie that Heath Ledger is in.
It was just, oh my God, he was so fucking good. And it was just like when you realize there was this hidden gem in front of you the entire fucking time, and you just got to watch one of his last works, and there will never be anything else. That hit me hard.
It's like even when we were talking about like that, like the other week, you said, and you'd gone back to watch Brokeback Mountain, and like he was really good in it, and then you just feel so bad for these guys.
That movie is really heart wrenching, but it's like like
people stuck in their circumstances or whatever. Like,
well, you grow as a person. I had older brothers. When you grow up in the 80s with the name Lance, defenses are gonna fucking pop up. Yeah. So like I'll make no excuses for myself. I didn't go out and beat up people, but of course I walked around with the same bravado of like, I don't like gay people. Even though they're not doing anything to me.
Yeah.
Then you get older and you realize your prejudices are fucking bleeding off you from the people around you.
Yeah.
You're creating your fucking persona by the people who are in your life instead of experiencing life and coming up with your own fucking opinions.
Yeah, like you go to the school in the 80s and 90s and those things are hurled at you as insults, so therefore they have to be bad things.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh wait, I'm older now.
Shields up, red alert. Yeah.
Then you get older and realize like, oh shit.
People are fucking people, and people are pretty fucking awesome when you give them a chance instead of judging them by what they do in their bedroom or, just the color of their skin. People can be pretty... Most people suck. Most people are bastard-coded bastards and bastard filling. But there are a lot of good people out there that will treat you the way you want to be treated. You just have to find them. And you have to be one of those people back to them.
Yeah, and there's no shortcut.
No,
you don't get to peek at a person, learn one fact about a person, and there's your shortcut.
Yeah,
it's like now you gotta know these people. You gotta find them.
But living life, that's the one thing that I'll say about wisdom. Living life will give you warning signs, and crazies when you see them. Like go to a restaurant with them and watch how they treat fucking wait staff.
That's the best first date ever. Is go to a restaurant and see how they deal with a wrong order.
Yeah, that or just how they deal with strangers. Like it gives you a peek into what's going on. But yeah, I'm hoping it's one of those ones that comes out of left field like the fucking Dark Knight did, because like I remember I walked out that movie and was like, this movie's gonna blow, here we go, and I walked out like like weeping. I remember
maybe one day we'll do a Batman versus Batman Begins versus Batman versus Superman versus the Batman.
Oh my God. That's going to have to be a Patreon. That's going to have to be a big Patreon one right there, because that is a lot of time.
Yeah. Or just Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man versus Spider-Man Homecoming. There's a bunch of
plus the Electric Company Spider-Man, and then like
we're not watching all those.
Fucking French Spider-Man.
So, suggestions, put those in the comments below. I think we have talked for very long. And in this one, I think this is the most on topic thing we have ever been.
Hey, high five.
About movies, because we like to go off on. We're friends. We like to go off on shit and talk about movies.
Yeah.
And you got some tangent at the end when we're trying to wrap up, but for the most part, these movies good. Good movie. Watch movie.
Watch movie. Good. Make happy and a lot of sad. So, for old cool and news cool.
Yeah, I've been Nick.
Lance.
Have a good night, or day, or morning, whatever.
And remember, let the right one in.
Do let the right one in.